Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about Halloween and how a Christian goes through life on this day, and just some things to think about if you aren't a Christian, and maybe you are a Christian and yet you're kind of on the side of there's nothing wrong with Halloween. Let's just stop making a big deal about it as Christians. And I just want to talk a little bit about how some of the things that we don't really see anything wrong with them necessarily, how we might actually think about it in our Christian worldview, and maybe they are a little more of a bigger deal than what we think they are. So today's Halloween, and it's a big day for kids. I know there are strong feelings mostly on the side of, if you think that it's like a very, very like demonic day and you see a little kid dressed up in a Halloween costume, you are just as upset about them, their parents, as you would be upset about a practicing witch. I want to just share a little bit of my own thoughts. I have several videos on this topic on my YouTube channel, and it's interesting to have recorded different like Halloweens and where I've been at as a mom especially. And it's still one of those things where you have to figure it out for yourself, because everyone is going to have their own opinions. And so sometimes when we're not certain about how to think about something, we will just go with, well, who's louder, who is a really good influence in my life, what does my mentor think about this, and maybe we'll lean more towards like, oh, they feel this way, so maybe I should feel this way too. Or maybe you're like completely the opposite, like you don't care what anyone else thinks, you're gonna do what you can think, and you actually don't like to think about like what other people want you to think about this day. Well, like the realities that it's not all just candy and costumes. So I've just been thinking about the Bible verse that talks about how a lot of Christians were not eating food that was dedicated to like idols, and how I believe it was Paul was saying that just don't ask. It's fine. Eat. That there isn't anything. There aren't any of those gods in reality. They're just, nothing is necessarily going on there. So you can just go ahead and eat it. But there is that consideration for the younger, weaker Christians that it might be like a negative influence if they see that you are eating those meats, and then you don't want to make those Christians stumble in their faith. So you do have to be considerate about your freedom as a Christian. And I feel like I have gone through a season where I have had my conscience very sensitive to Halloween. And so when I was so like, should I not, just not able to decide one way or another, especially when Christians are like trying to repurpose Halloween. So if your church is doing something, a celebration on the same day of Halloween, and so then it's like, well, if I participate in this, even though they don't call it Halloween, they might call it a harvest, but they're doing it on the same day, you know? Sorry. Am I participating? And that's what a lot of people would say. No, don't participate. Don't dress up. Don't, hand out candy. Don't do anything for Halloween. And so there, I was like really stuck. Like, well, I can do something really great for God. I can pass out these flyers for my church. I can help out. My church is asking for volunteers. I can hand out candy, maybe with a message. Like this year, I was thinking, well, what if I, attach something to a candy that says something like, "Taste and see that the Lord is good." So it's just, I've been thinking about it. Like, am I gonna do something this year? And this year it's been more like practical reasons. Like I thought, you know what, if it would be fun to dress up, just dressing up, but obviously not participating in like the darkness. So there would be no costumes with darkness, no like dressing up as witches or anything related to like witchcraft or violence. So I thought, oh, you know what, I really love this year I have really appreciated the Princess Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and I'm like, you know what, I relate to that princess. I finally know which princess I am. And I thought, yeah, because I really love books. I would love to marry, well, I am married. I would love my husband to be, I'm just thinking like if I was a little girl and I was thinking what princess I would want to be. If I was a little girl, I would probably think that like I would love to marry a husband, a man that would give me like his huge library. And so I'm like, okay, let me see if I can find things on Amazon, put costume together and have fun with me. The kids dress up. We'll figure out the kids' costumes next. And then I just add up the total and I'm like, trying to be financially responsible. Probably could use that money for something else. So I'm like, forget it. Like, let's just close this laptop, because of course I'm doing this like at 11 or 12 in the nighttime. So it's probably not a good idea to make a decision anyway in the nighttime. So for practical reasons, this year I decided not to dress up. And I told my kids the same thing. You know what? Let's try not to like spend money this year on things that we don't really need. You know, you guys already have a lot of things you can dress up at as at home if you want to. And this is what I want to say, that I feel like unless God shows me that my thinking is wrong, later in the future, I think that I've grown as a Christian where my conscience isn't so heightened, and I know that there's nothing behind the costumes. I mean, unless you take it to another level, a dark level. I know if I dress up, I'm not participating in Halloween, in the sense that we know we're Christians. We know God hates witchcraft. We know that we're not even playing around as violence. We're not going to decorate a house with graves and things like that. So this year it's more like I think we've just been really busy, and it's just practical this year. It's like, no, I don't have time. I don't think I want to go to like my church's thing that they do for the neighborhood, because I really don't have time this year, and also like a lot of people are sick and just don't want to increase our chances of getting a cold and stuff. So that's where I'm at. But interestingly enough, I have been thinking a lot this year about the decorations. And if you are my neighbor, one of my neighbors, or you are someone that, you know, I'm in contact with throughout the week, please do not feel like I like think low of you, or that I think I'm a better Christian or anything like that. I'm just sharing this to just because that's what I like to do. I like to share my thoughts on something here. I've been thinking a lot about the decorations I see like everywhere, and the ones that have stood out to me the most this year are the ones that have like bones, the fake bones, the fake skulls. Maybe a little the violent ones, but mostly like the, you know, the remains. And why is because I think for the first time in my life, I've especially been able to see firsthand, you know, through videos, firsthand violence done by evil to innocent people. The videos we saw of Hamas terrorists killing the innocent people at that party, entering homes, enjoying being creative, killing these families, these children, and the videos, the pictures that I've seen. One in particular I saw from Ben Shapiro of a woman. She just completely looked dark, like crisp, you know, brown, ashes. And having seen that, hearing about beheadings, it's just, I think it's very culturally insensitive of us a little bit as Americans. You know, that's my country. I don't know what's going on in your countries if you're not from here, but to say the least. But it's just not the same thing. It's just not the same as other years where I've seen these decorations, and just that's not what's going on in the world. And so when I've seen some of those decorations, I've just been reminded about the things that people actually suffered, and the things that really go on in the world. And you know, my child asks me, why do people put R.I.P. on those graves? And trying to help them to understand, oh, it stands for rest in peace, and that's what people would place in people's graves. Rest in peace, because now they, you know, they've passed, and so they want to remember them, and that's why they put that. And like, well, why do people put that on their yard? Well, I think it's because they want to put scary decoration. You know, I think they think it's fun. to scare children on Halloween, and this was my point for making this video today, that how does a Christian, or how should a Christian process what we see, like the decorations, the costumes. And like I said, you have to make those decisions yourself. As for me, I believe that it's a good opportunity to have conversations with your children, or if you don't have children, just remind yourself about what the Bible says about witchcraft, about how abominable it is, about how there are actually people out there that it's not all fun and games, it's not all imagination for them to actually attempt to keep up with like the stars and the moon and doing spells and things like that. There are actually people out there that are trying to manipulate the spiritual world. And there are actually people out there that have said that they have experience with the dark side, And so should we be promoting that with children? I say no. I say there are certain things as Christians, we should not be minimizing, downplaying. We want to make sure that Christians, the world knows that Christians are against the things that God is against. And violence, it's a good opportunity to talk about how there is real violence in the world, and how God teaches us to, how to love our neighbor. He has taught us through the commandments not to murder, all of these things, and that we shouldn't play violent things. There are different things we can play that are not necessarily like to enjoy violence against animals, against people. Like if you're I don't know, like a police officer, that kind of job is to protect, to defend, not to not to because you want to have a job where you get to like use your gun and murder people. So those are the things that have come to mind this year. Just being very sober about the reality of not going along with just like what the world does, as far as like your culture. For example, my culture, some people celebrate the Day of the Dead, and so I've decided, just because maybe my family will do that in Mexico. Hello everyone, if you're watching this. Again, I don't mean it in a bad way. I just feel like my Christian worldview impacts the decisions I make. So if there is something that goes against my Christian worldview, even though it's like the history of my culture, like my Mexican background, I still need to make sure that I'm not like actually participating in practices that have like spirits and things like that involved. And one day I would actually like to learn more about that and that particular holiday, and understand what that day is all about. And and obviously, like, I'm not going to yeah, it's just very different. There, there are some things that are similar, and yet there are some things that Protestant Christians, do differ when it comes to like the afterlife with like Catholic believers. So yeah, I've just decided I'm going to have a nice evening with my kids. Maybe I have a pumpkin. I thought, okay, it would be fun to like actually like cook the pumpkin this year, not just leave it outside and stuff. And then I saw like this cool little activity on Facebook where they turn the pumpkin, you carve the stuff out, but you turn the pumpkin into like a little, like a house. I thought that's so cute. I want to do something like that. And obviously like do something with the seeds, and it's all new for me, so we'll figure it out. Oh, and I did want to recommend that you watch a couple of videos that I have on the topic, maybe a third one too. So there's I sat down to hear the story of someone that used to be a, what do you call a warlock? No, I'm forgetting the male word for witch. I forgot how you say it, but yeah. And so I'll leave it in the description, in the notes below. And also I made a second video with him. I wanted to get his perspective on like him and Halloween, and so you'll hear his views on it. He's definitely like, no, Christians should have no part with anything about Halloween. I do think that he needs to follow his conscience, because especially since he was so involved in the darkness, and that is a day where you might not be participating in the witchcraft, the violence, decoration, all that, but there are people that this day is, they do believe that there are things in the spiritual worlds, and that today is when they want to do the things that they believe are going to be even stronger on this day, and things like that. So, and then there's one more video where I have spoken to someone that used to be a new age best bookseller, and she used to be really famous in that area and all the kinds of things she would write about, like angels and things like that. And now she's become a Christian believer, so I'll leave that one also in the description. Maybe when I have time, I can continue to interview more people that have backgrounds in the occult, and it can just help us to step outside of our bubble and just give us a more in-depth like perception of the world and the reality of what's going on spiritually. But for sure, I encourage you to pray, to worship the Lord on this day, to hang out with your family, and just wanted to share those thoughts with you today. Let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you on the next video.